Good afternoon. I am Liam Heenahan, Environmental Science. Welcome to the second year seminar on decay and senescence. This is the first maybe of two videos I'll post this afternoon. This first one is kind of a little more formal. I just want to set out some ideas on how to think about decay. And then I'll post another short video in the afternoon just on the mechanics of the course. So the syllabus is up and running, and the supplementary video is just kind of a reminder of how we're going to structure things. We're going to be pretty open and kind of loosey-goosey about this if we need to kind of change up our schedule or kind of our mode of operation. We can do that. There'll be one short video maybe tomorrow as well, and that will be it for this week, just to get us going. I'd ask you to pick up a copy of The Death in Venice, the Thomas Mann short novel. So you should tuck into that straight away. It's a kind of melancholy, sobering tale, and just make what progress you can on it this week, and we'll discuss it again in more detail on when we get together next week. So let's just get down to it. You'll remember, even a few weeks ago before we started, we may have had a few trepidations about spending an entire quarter unflinchingly reading the literature of senescence and decay. Now, as we all, this is kind of a formal, I'm just going to read these notes. I'll also post these notes as well so that you can look at them later. Not all of, I should assure you, of our lecture reflection-y videos are going to be quite as formal as this. But we are going to spend this quarter unflinchingly reading the literature on senescence and decay. So we're hunkered down as best we can in this pandemic. And of course the temptation now may be to look away from topics like decay. And I can't really provide a convincing argument against, dropping this seminar, frankly, but I do, of course, hope that you say that we kind of stay together with this. And perhaps there's an astringent piece of advice that's offered by Nietzsche, the great philologist of decadence, of decay, that I think is kind of helpful. In a 1887-88 note he wrote on the concept of decadence or decay. Waste, decay, he wrote, waste, decay, elimination need not be condemned. They are necessary consequences of life, of the growth of life. The phenomenon of decadence is as necessary as any increase and advance of life. One is in no position to abolish it. Reason demands, on the contrary, that we do justice to it. So that's what we are planning to do. Doing justice to decadence. So let's begin. Indeed, let us start by getting to the very roots of decay, and perhaps doing it in the least exciting way imaginable. That is, to look at the dictionary and to excavate the etymology or origins of the term. By the way, the etymology is itself complex, according to the Oxford English Dictionary. I tend to work with the OED open on my desktop. It's kind of a bit of advice maybe that I'd hand on to you. Whatever your favorite dictionary is, it's kind of often useful to kind of look at the history of these words, and the commonplace often becomes more complicated than we thought. But the etymology of etymology comes from the Middle French etymologie, which is establishing the origins of a given word or explaining its composition, etc. So what we're asking for here is the etymology of our word decay. According to the OED, and you could look at other sources, I think that would be useful, the Latin prefix D augments English words in quite varied ways. It can mean down, down from, down to, off, away, aside, away from oneself. And one can besides indicate the undoing of the action of a simple verb, or depriving a thing of its former character. So, for instance, you can de-ice something, or de-acidify, or de-escalate, or if the occasion calls for it, you can decapitate. Turning now to the K in the word decay, what is this K being deprived of? What is being taken down from it, and so on? So the etymology, origins of K, is simple enough, it turns out. It comes from the Latin verb cadere, to fall. So for something to decay, viewed through this etymological lens, signifies a form of downfall, a falling away, a falling off, falling to the side, and so on. The word also carries the flavor of loss, of being deprived. This sense of deprivation is more strenuously expressed in the meaning of decomposition, decay's stolid first cousin. The origin of that word includes the now familiar prefix D alongside compose, which is a coming together, a com, in place, pose. So when a thing decays in the sense of decomposing, it falls apart into its dispersion and is deprived of its integrity. So where, if anywhere, has this rather unexciting excursus into the roots of decay gotten us? Perhaps no further than this. The word decay, and this is true, by the way, of decay's affiliated terms, so it's synonyms: to break down, to corrupt, to decompose, to disassemble, to deteriorate, to dissolve, to disintegrate, to molder, to putrefy, to rot, to spoil, to taint, and to turn like a neglected plum, is a fairly general term with rather broad applicability rather than a highly specific one of limited use. So almost anything can fall down, fall apart, or be deprived of its integrity. Decay and its grim band of synonymous colleagues can be applied to objects as varied as unstable atomic nuclei, teeth, carcasses, friendships, marriages, civilizations, ecosystems, the biosphere, and the cosmos itself. Is there anything that resists decomposition, that resists corruption? Going back here with the slide, because I want you to think about this a little bit. Is there anything you can think of that resists corruption? Can you think of anything at all? Because of its broad broad applicability and generality, decay has been defined in quite a number of ways. Here's a sampling of definitions offered by the OED that I regard as not noteworthy. To decay is to fall off in quality or quantity, to deteriorate or become impaired, to lose its characteristic quality, strength, or excellence, to decrease in amplitude or suffer a gradual decrease in its radioactive power, to undergo nuclear disintegration, to change or disintegrate into one or more different substances, to fall into physical ruins, to waste away, to wear out, become ruined, to fall off in vital energy, to lose health and strength, body or faculties, to lose the bloom of youth and health, to waste or ruin physically, to disintegrate, dilapidate, to bring to decay or ruin, to cause the body or the faculties to fail in vital energy, health, or beauty. So let us just say that we can be convinced that decay is general, universal, that everything falls apart, then what are the principles? The principles of decay are the patterns that might be extracted, forgive that dental analogy, so can the patterns that can be extracted from an examination of the aging of a painting, say, or the ruination of a building, or the collapse of civilization and so on, might they give us some general insights into these laws of decay? Moreover, if we elucidate those patterns and pronounce upon cross-object regularity, so comparing the decay of civilization against the decay of a friendship or the decay of an atom, can this help us in the management of exceptional objects, in the conservation of living things, in the preservation of beautiful objects, in protecting our most intimate relationships? Conversely, can knowing the laws of decay give us insight into destabilizing undesirable conditions or objects? For example, can we promote the fall off, the decay of bad habits, eyesores in a pristine landscape, garbage, bad memories, authoritarian regimes, to give just a few examples? In the coming weeks, we will be pondering the topic of decay under the following headaches. Under the following headings, so hopefully it won't be too much of a headache. But we'll be, and these are reproduced, by the way, in the syllabus, but I'm just summarizing them here. So we're going to try and identify kind of a hierarchy of decaying objects. We want to develop a systems theory of decay. We want to understand and ponder the eerie persistence of properties associated with decaying objects, including our memories of them. Examine the creativity of destruction. We want to investigate the patterns and pace of the loss of objects' integrity. Ponder an account of connection and disconnection. Discuss disassembly rules. And finally, reminding ourselves that resistance to decay is not futile. Think of these as kind of organizing principles rather than laws. The laws or generalities, if they exist, will fall out, cadre, of our cogitation on the processes governing the decay of disparate objects. Though many of the examples that we'll be discussing will be environmental, since this is primarily an environmental course, but we will nevertheless draw pretty recklessly from adjacent fields. So it's going to require a certain amount of effort on our part to be sympathetic to a whole variety of different kind of disciplinary languages, and yet put those disciplines and the objects under their inquiry into conversation with one another. So in summary, for this first little provocation, I want you to reflect upon, and this could be kind of the first entry into your decay journal. Just check the syllabus for more details. I just want you to kind of investigate and reflect upon the etymology of any of the synonyms of decay that I have reproduced above: corruption, senescence, and so on. To what objects or processes does that particular synonym of decay best apply? Does the etymology tell you anything about the use of that term? What does it imply? Is there anything, to reproduce the question we asked before, corporeal that seems to resist corruption? Love? God? I don't know. So think about maybe any two familiar objects that you've observed decaying. A nice piece of fruit, for instance, or, God forbid, your tooth. And reflect on kind of the commonalities and differences between the decay processes governing them. All right, I think this probably gives us plenty to start thinking about. I will follow up this afternoon with another just short summary of expectations and course mechanics. Thanks a lot.